Let me take a second and share with you about the doula guide bundle, something I created after 10 years of supporting families through pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. It includes the same step-by-step tools I use with my clients to help them feel confident, prepared, and grounded. So you can grab the full bundle or get them individually down below. Before I was a doula, before I believed that birth could be so empowering, I had to go through it myself. Welcome back to Positive Birth Corner, where we are changing the narrative, one birth story at a time. Hi, I'm MaryNissi, your host, and today I am sharing with you my own story, my own birth story that truly brings me here with you today. When Drew and I decided to start a family, we had been married for 5 years. I did not really know what we were getting ourselves into. We decided to, start planning for a baby, got pregnant pretty quickly, and very quickly, I found out that I really did not know what to do next. Being raised in another country, even my own mom did not know how to support me. I actually ended up being at, setting up an appointment with like a local hospital that was close by because that's what my neighbor told me to do. And we were also the first that was pregnant. So even my friends didn't really know how, how to support me. We were the first people, the first couple that was pregnant. So here I was, headed to my appointment by myself. It was hot. I just remember it was hot it was hot that day. I walked in by myself. I can't remember what it is that I was wearing, but I remember very distinctly like how I felt. I remember feeling really judged. I remember getting like weird looks. And I couldn't really articulate what it is that I was feeling. I came with so many questions. I thought, hey, this is my first visit. They are going to tell me everything because I have zero clue what this process looks like. What do I do? What am I supposed to be doing now that I'm pregnant? What am I supposed to eat and not eat, right? What are all of these things that I need to do before baby comes? And what I was faced with was being talked at. I just remember they were just saying things to me, doing things to me, taking blood, doing, blood pressure cuff. But nobody was really talking to me or even trying to ask me questions. Like, do you have any questions? Is there something that you want to know about? Nobody did that. And it did not feel good. Even as I share with you today, like I remember that feeling. I was like, oh, this does not feel good. And I went to my car and I cried because I could not explain to you what it is that I had experienced. Here I was in a very new season of life and had zero clue of what it is that had happened or even what moving forward looked like. I knew that I did not want to come back here. I said, I do not want to come back to this place. I didn't know if that was even an option, even if that was possible, or what that meant. Like, what does that mean? Like, I don't want to come back. I don't want to come back to this place. That weekend, I got a random phone call. It actually, when someone calls you, it goes to voicemail. I remember listening to this voicemail, and it was this nurse from an organization that said I qualified for their program. They got their contact from my appointment and wanted to talk with me. So here I am. I'm like, oh my word, this place gave somebody my number, right? So thankfully I talked to the nurse, and her name is Rachel. And Rachel says, hey, we got your information. You qualify for our program. We support first-time moms. And because of the zip code and, where you live here in the city, you can be part of this program. I remember kind of like in my head trying to figure out like my way out because this was just like really confusing. And she says, I come to you. You don't have to come to, the clinic where I had gone. And so I remember that being the hook for me, right? Like, oh, you're coming to my house? Yes. Yes, I do not want to go back anywhere else, right? So next thing you know, Rachel's at my door after we have scheduled our time together. And one of the things that really stood out to me with Rachel's presence is that, she obviously knocks on the door and I open it and, come on in. And she comes in and she asks me, says, do you, should I take off my shoes? Right? And for me, that was so significant because as a household, culturally, like that is what we do. You take off your shoes. It is a place, it's a part of honoring the culture, honoring the household, right? Honoring me, the person who lives here. And her approach, like for me, that was just like the first of who Rachel really is till today. Just a person who really came in and understood that this was my journey and that she came alongside with me. So throughout the times she would come, we would schedule visits, and she would really teach me about like my body, my pregnant body, like childbirth education, would really pour into me, would help me get my voice, right? So she would tell me about something and say, what do you think about that? What do you think that you want for your birth? And this really led into the planning stage of what I wanted for my birth. I understood what it is, what this journey looked like, that there is stages when you are birthing, right? There's different stages, the different phases that your body goes through, and that there is a lot of autonomy. I actually get to decide how I want to go through the stages of birth. I get to decide who I want to be there, and I get to decide what provider or what space I want to birth. I switched hospitals. I switched providers. I literally just switched everything because I started to understand what it is that I wanted for myself. So we went to another hospital. It took me a little bit longer to get to the other one. Was the first one was local, right? It was like around the corner. It wasn't too far. But I said, it's okay because this is what I'm looking for my birth. So that planning stage was so helpful. I chose a hospital that had midwives there. So I got to see different midwives for my prenatal visits. I actually have like a little book that I would take notes after I meet with each midwife, because I wanted to know which one did I click with more. Who would I want to be there for my birth? And I remember writing down notes. Didn't I like this one? Not scheduling with this one again, right? Because I understood, because Rachel really helped me understand that this is my journey and I get to choose what I want this journey to look like. And so that was so empowering. Here I am, planning, right? Having my birth plan, what it is that I want for this birth. And then it was now the preparing stage, right? Because I am now, I'm in the prenatal season. I'm obviously working. So I worked at Starbucks for a really long time. I was doing my resume the other day. I was like, oh, we were here for a while. I was climbing the Starbucks ladder, right? Like I started as a barista, now I was like, manager, was gonna own my own store, right? It was this journey. And in pregnancy, it was a lot. I would wake up at 4. I'd have to open the store, I think, by 4:30. And all of these things while I was pregnant. And Rachel would actually sometimes come in on my lunch break and meet me at Starbucks for our times in the prenatal. And I very quickly learned that part of me preparing for this birth that I wanted had to do a lot with what I was doing now. I started, using YouTube for yoga, for prenatal yoga. I would type like prenatal yoga with people who are pregnant, because I would get so mad when I would watch like a YouTube video of prenatal yoga and the person's not pregnant. I'm like, you're only moving like that because you're not pregnant, right? So I knew that I had to like move my body and prepare. This is where I fell in love with yoga. But I also very quickly realized that I had to really work on my mindset about birth, because I'm sure that you have seen this or you've heard this, because something crazy happens when you're pregnant. Everybody and their mama have something to say about you and your pregnancy and your birth. Working at Starbucks and having so many customers that finally got to see the belly was crazy. People would come left and right, just begin to like literally word vomit is what I would call it. They would just come and share the craziest stories, like, oh girl, what do you hear about my cousin's birth story? They were, like, all of this trauma or the things that did not go so well in births. And that was so wild to me, because I didn't know. I didn't know that people come and pretty much download their stuff that did not go well. And so I started going here on YouTube and I would type like good births from Black moms. At one point I would say, good births from, hospital, good births from an immigrant, right? I was really trying to find people who looked like me that I could relate to, who hopefully had good births. And it was very small, unfortunately. I could not find a lot of people. And part of that too was I was finding people that were birthing in other spaces and not hospitals, right? And I was birthing at a hospital with my first baby. So I needed to know, was this possible, right? So here was Rachel helping me with education, knowing the physiological of how like the body knows how to grow the baby and the body knows how to bring the baby out, right? That was so helpful. And I wanted to hear from others. I wanted to hear, what did that look like for people? But I realized very quickly that I had to protect my mind in what I hear. Being an immigrant and being how I've been raised, I knew that it was very hard for me to actually tell my customers then that no thank you, please don't share your story. So I legit wrote down, like rehearsed a saying so that people don't share their crazy stories with me. I would say, I am trying something new. I am not listening to other people's birth stories. Like, I literally would say that to myself and say that out loud to my customers just so I can protect my mind, because I knew how powerful that is, right? Because what happened is when I would hear the stories that did not go so well, that would create so much anxiety. Like, I was scared. It would take away all the education that I've learned, all the things that I've learned about what the body does, because that fear would just like grip me, right? My whole body would literally feel it, and I'll be so scared, like, oh my God, what happens if that, that happens to me? So I knew how powerful these negative stories were to me, and I knew how powerful positive stories can be to me. So that's what I really like looked for. I found a few people who had really good births. It wasn't necessarily hospital births. It was home births. It was birthing centers. And in that season, that was not my story. I did not feel comfortable to do a birth at home. I did not feel comfortable to do a birth at the birthing center, right? That's not where it was. And I needed to know that it was possible. So I worked really hard in just being mentally and emotionally ready. In your pregnancy, it's you. In your birth, it's you. You don't change. And something about me is that, I am a firstborn. I am extremely independent, right? I am, power to the people. I'm very, very independent and love to do things on my own. So I knew that I needed to just really focus on that, because that's what was going to keep me going. So here I was doing my movement, doing, yoga, breathing, right? Using YouTube and rehearsing my line. We're in third trimester. We're getting to 37 weeks. And Thursday, April 16th, after work, my brother calls me from back home, and it was so random too, right? He goes, sis, don't go to work tomorrow. This episode is brought to you by Coco Life. Coco Life is an amazing organization that is standing in the front line of Black maternal wellness. They support pregnant folks from pregnancy, postpartum, and compassion. For more information, please check cocolife.black. Just like that. He's like, don't go to work tomorrow. This is what you called me to tell me not to go to work tomorrow, right? At this point, the belly is all the way out, and he's thinking, you need to be home. Like, why are you still working? But you already know we work until baby comes. And he was just so adamant. I get off the phone, I go, okay, like, this is really weird, but let me pay attention. Let me pay attention. I called out Thursday night. The story goes that I hear after is that my mom didn't sleep that night. Friday morning, Drew goes to work. He has just started this new job, and he's in orientation Monday through Friday. And something begins in my body, like this cramping is happening. Now, mind you, I have done a lot of work, right? We're planned, I have prepared, and I know what happens to the body. And right away, I promise you, I knew. I said, oh, I'm in labor. Just like that. My mom calls me because I didn't know she hadn't slept, right? She's like, are you okay? Are you okay? What happened? I was like, I'm fine. Why? I was like, oh, and I'm in labor, right? And apparently, but she knew something. She knew. I guess this is what happens when you're a mother. You're connected to your kids, even when they're older. So I had bought this robe that I was going to wear at this hospital, because I was not about to wear this hospital gowns, okay? I was ready. Okay? This independent woman here, like, I got this. Here I am in the morning with my robe, knowing that I am in labor. And I know the longest part of labor is early labor. So I literally knew what to do. I remember the lights were dim. the curtains were closed, and I really worked hard to remind myself all of these things that I had to learn. I was walking around, I was taking some deep breaths, doing some chants and prayers, knowing that like, this is it. I'm like, this is it. Like, my body has started. I was very calm. It was a very, I was surprised, but also not surprised, if that makes sense, right? It was that all of the work that I had done before literally paid off, paid off. And it was so helpful that I was by myself, because that is just like who I am. When I'm working on something, till today, I am that person. I need to be in my head. I need to be able to like really ground myself, because I'm able to do that. Yes, I need other people, but I know myself really well that is what I needed in that moment. Of course, I texted Drew. I was like, hey, FYI, I'm in labor, but I'm okay, right? And of course, he's like, wait, what do you mean you're in labor? How do you know? I know. I'm in labor. It was just such a sacred moment. And I knew that I wanted to labor at home as much as I could. So I did. I did by myself in the house, never turned on the lights, and just really allowed my body to do what it was doing, right? In early labor, contractions are a little bit far apart. I was fine. Oh, yes. And I did text my doula, because I ended up having a doula, Shelly, who was so excited. I said, hey, I'm in labor, but I'm fine. I really wanted her to come later on, because I wanted to be by myself. Time is ticking, right? We are now around 4 p.m. I've been laboring throughout the day. Drew is back home, and I said, listen, you do what you gotta do. I'm doing what I gotta do. I'll let you know, right? If I need you. And he, he had to figure out what he needed to do. He was packing up stuff and I'm cleaning. It was hilarious, but that's what he needed to do so he can be fully present and fully grounded. At one point I go, you know what? Let me take a nap. I should finally like nap. I have not done that yet. Let me get some rest, right? So I still have my little robe with me. I lay down on the bed. Like, I remember this like it was yesterday. I lay down on the bed, and just like that, I hear I can't even say it, like it was like pop, just like that, my water broke. And when I tell you I was the calmest person you've ever met, I was like, oh, my water broke. Right? And Drew's in the other room like, wait, what? What do you mean your water broke? I was like, oh, that happens sometimes, right? Not everybody experiences water breaking, but mine did. So I was like, oh yeah, that happens sometimes. He helps me, clean up. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to run into the shower. In between, my mom calls Drew, right? And found out that my water broke. And the lady lost it. This episode is brought to you by Everybody Advocacy. It is a platform for birth, equity, and reproductive justice advocacy. Its mission is to connect the public with organizations and individuals who provide educational programming, evidence-based care, and policy initiatives focused on bodily autonomy for everybody. For more information, check out everybodyadvocacy.org. She freaked out. She freaked Drew up. It was crazy. Also, why you gotta figure out who's in your labor, okay? Your birth team. We'll talk about that in a second. So here was my mom telling Drew that the baby is gonna be born in a second. The baby's gonna be born at the house or, in the car. You should leave now. Drew's kind of like knocking at the door. I'm taking a shower. It's like, the baby's gonna come now. And I'm like, no, that's not how that works, right? And that was because I knew I had learned, right? I was trusting myself and trusting my body. Like, this is not a freak out moment because I know exactly what, it doesn't mean that if your water breaks, then your baby's here. We did end up leaving and going to the hospital. And at this point, it is rush hour. We're on 95. If you know 95, you know exactly what it is that I am in right now. And we get there, we're in triage, and there is one of the midwives that I specifically had written in my little notebook that I did not want. That is not going well for my brain right now, right? Because I have been in my own space, mentally working and grounding myself. And now I'm in a whole new other place, and there's that midwife that I did not want. I legit freak out. I'm like, she can't do anything to me. I don't want her. And thankfully, her shift was ending, so we did not have to do much there. But I knew that I had the autonomy. I get to advocate for myself for what I want and what I don't want. So I knew I didn't want a cervical checks. I knew that I didn't want any IV portal. I did not want a blood pressure cuff, right? I was ready to advocate for myself because there was very specific things that I knew were not going to support my personal birth plan. And I was low risk, right? So I know that because I was low risk, my body knew how to do this and it was going to continue to. And I had the evidence at home because I had been laboring throughout at the house and I was fine. So we get into triage and my doula comes. Shelly was amazing. And the coolest thing about Shelly was that this was her first birth to support outside of her, like her own births that she has had. So I was her first client. And that was just so special to me. And that was just so special to her. We aligned in so many levels. She was the best thing ever. Because it was me, it was Drew, and it was Shelly. That was it. That was it. And it worked out so well because these were the people that were so aligned. I mean, Drew had no choice, but these are people that were so aligned with me and were able to support what it is that I wanted. At one point, I remember Shelly was like, rubbing me and, really helping me with counter pressure. And she was humming. She would hum into like songs and hymns, which is what I needed in that moment. It was absolutely incredible. It was absolutely incredible. Oh my word. I wish we had like a video or something where we had captured it. So, after triage, I got, transferred into my own room and the new midwife comes. Her name is Christy. Christy is a midwife I have not met. I have not met Christy at all. She was the only midwife, which was the craziest story. She was the only midwife I did not meet during my prenatals because I was so concerned about meeting everybody. And I definitely now do not recommend that. I would say if you find somebody that works with you in prenatal, stick with them because you can't control who you get, right? When you're laboring. But thankfully, Christy was exactly what we needed as part of our birth team. She walked in and was like, I'm not going to touch you. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to let you do what you're doing. And literally, like, I could cry thinking about it because that was part of my birth plan was that, like, I don't want anybody to do anything to me. Let my body do what it knows how to do. I trusted myself and trusted my body and trusted my birth team that I was able to just like rock with it. Was it intense? Oh, 100% it was intense. Okay, both Shelly and Drew, listen, they were the power team. They were doing the counter pressure. They were doing the hydrating. They were, helping me with movement and all of these things. And we didn't need anything else. Around 9 or 10, Christy comes in and goes, I'm going to check your cervix. I think you're almost there. If I remember very well, I think this was only my first or second cervical check because I remember not wanting, I didn't want cervical checks. If I'm almost there, I'm almost there. My body's going to tell me, don't do anything to me. I know, I want to trust my body and trust this process. Christy checks my cervix and goes, you are 9.5 centimeters. True story. 9.5 centimeters. And she goes, as a matter of fact, I can just move the lip of the cervix. This is if you're, I talk about this in my childbirth classes. And really, you can just be complete. And she did that. And boom, I was 10 centimeters. And she's like, the baby is right there. Like, you are close. We pushed the baby for literally just a little bit. I wish I could remember how many times we pushed. And just like that, this baby was here, y'all. This baby was here. Our baby boy was here. I was in so much shock. My eyes were so bugged out that there was a whole human being that came out of me. I said, oh my God. And the funny part was like both Drew and I, like our eyes were just like this. I wish somebody had taken a picture of how creepy I thought that whole process. It just felt so weird. Meanwhile, Shelly, our doula, is in tears, like bawling her eyes out. I said, you know what? Shelly did the crying for us. She did the crying for us. And I share with, with people so many times. I say, listen, if you don't cry, it's okay. All of those emotions are normal, right? Whether you are extremely emotional, whether you are, it feels really weird. It's okay. It is all normal. It's all part of the process. I think it took me a few hours to like really sink in that I have a whole baby and that I really got to have the birth that I wanted. That's literally when I knew that this was it. Like, this is what I wanted to do, not just for myself, but for others, and have done it ever since. Let me tell you about postpartum, what that looked like a little bit, because I think that we can't just talk about birth, right? We prepare for birth and we forget like what happens after. Thankfully, we had a plan. My mom came, it was really a beautiful thing for her to come into the postpartum season to support. I think she was with me for, I can't even remember, probably 3 or 4 weeks. At one point she was ready to leave and I just was not doing that great. I said, no, please don't leave yet. Please don't leave yet. And I've shared on social media, I've said, oh, my mom wasn't in the labor room and it was the best decision I ever made. And I mean that. And there's no shade, because her and I laugh about this today. There's no shade. Is that I knew that she was not the best person in labor room with me, right? I knew that I had to protect my birth team, but we figured out an amazing way to have her be part of our birth, our birthing journey, and that was postpartum, and that was literally perfect. We still talk about it today, how this lady legit saved our lives in postpartum season. And we had friends from our church bring food. We had different people come and really support us, which was so powerful, because that's really what it is. There's no way you can do postpartum season by yourself. So that is my birth story, what leads me to this work. Maybe one of these times we'll talk about baby girl, because we have two kiddos. We'll talk about baby girl. But it's so amazing to be able to come here and sit with you to talk about positive births. And most people, you hear these stories over and over again, people who have had really good births sometimes are so intimidated or scared to share, because they think, because we hear more negative stories, right? And so the goal is that you get to hear more and more of the stories, and you already know next week we're coming back with more for you, so you continue to be encouraged, you continue to be empowered, so that then you can go and have your own positive birth story. We are changing the narrative around birth, one powerful story at a time. Come back next week. Don't forget, subscribe, hit that notification button, and share this with a friend who needs to hear this. See you next week.